my channel. I think that today's video is gonna be so fun. So I have had a Kindle Unlimited subscription for well over 2 years now. In that time, I've read over 100 books that are on Kindle Unlimited. This video is going to be all of my recommendations for you of all the books that I've read that I honestly love. They are so fun, and I've narrowed down that list of 100 books into my top 46 books that I would recommend to you. I'm breaking it down by series, so we're not gonna go over 46 individual books. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about each book or series. I'll share my rating for the book, and I'll make sure that the genre is on the screen so that way you know what you're getting into and you get a good idea of what's going on. Some quick stats for you. The average star rating of these books is 4.14. Genre-wise, I have a whopping 44 fantasy romance books to share. There is 1 thriller and then 1 contemporary romance. I think it's also important for me to clarify that I will try any genre at least once, right? I recently have been branching out a lot more in my genres, but a lot of these books on this series, sorry about the light, a lot of the books on this list are based off of the last 2.5 years of reading or so, at which point I was sticking largely to some version of fantasy romance. So a lot of the books that you're gonna see on this list are fantasy romance. I have ranked these books, I'm saving the best for last, but keep in mind that every single one of the books on this list is a recommendation. I like all of these books. This is already the narrowed down list. The lowest that I've rated any of these books is 3 stars. It's also important to note that while I am including rankings, while I am ranking each of these, and there is technically a best and a worst on this list, this is totally subjective, and if you were to ask me in the next 6 months, this list might be different. So just keep in mind, it's subjective. This is how I'm feeling right now. If you would rank it differently, let's talk about it. I would love to. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Starting off, we have the Dominion series. This is The Liar's Crown, I believe is the first book. This one is kind of a fun idea. So you have twin princesses. One is the heir, one is the spare, and in this royal timeline, or in this royal lineage, that's always how it is. There's always a set of twin princesses. The world doesn't know about the twin, but there's always an heir and there's always a spare. So the heir gets kidnapped. The spare is on this mission to go find her, and in the process gets tangled up in all sorts of dark magic that she just was absolutely not prepared for. Kind of a vibe. I really liked this one because the male main character gives off like the dark, moody, broody vibes, which I've really been into lately, and I don't know why, but that is kind of the vibe that you get. So it's a lot of fun. It's nothing too crazy, and like the writing is okay. I like the world building. I like the characters. I connected a lot with the female main character as well. I will say with this one, it's a trilogy, and the 3rd book is out, but the 3rd book isn't on Kindle Unlimited. So I've only read the first 2. I still need to read the 3rd one, but I'm kind of just working my way into that one. I haven't gotten there quite yet. This one I did rate 3 stars. I still think it's a lot of fun. Spark of the Everflame. If I'm being real, I read this one because of TikTok and because I thought the cover was really cool. Again, it's fun, it's a good time, it's an interesting idea. I don't think it's the best executed idea, but it is a lot of fun. Demigods are kind of seen as first-class citizens, and then regular humans are seen as like second class, and they are more of like your working class, things like that. And what we have is a girl who, I believe that she thinks that she's a human, but she ends up like not. She has a very special set of powers that no one was really expecting, and just the way that like the hierarchy works, it's just kind of navigating this world. The main character, I loved her in the first book. She is just so cool. I have to admit that getting into the 2nd and 3rd books, I did not love her as much. She kind of annoyed the crap out of me, actually. So by the end of the 3rd book, I'm not even sure if I want to finish that series. We're getting there. I don't even think it's out yet. The main character was driving me crazy, but at the same time, I had to know how it ended. So I'm still kind of, I want to follow up on that one. This one I rated 3.25 stars. This next series is the Dark Shores and Dark Skies series. This series has 3 books so far, and I believe there's another one that's coming out later this year, but this world has amazing political intrigue. This story has reluctant allies. This story has pirates. It has armies and generals. This story is just filled to the brim with all sorts of fun things. We have 2 worlds. We have the known world and we have the Dark Shores. They're split by like an unpassable passage of sea. So you can't just sail between one and the other. There's like a very special form of passage that you have to go through. I kind of think of it like in Pirates of the Caribbean, how the like whole boat has to flip under and then it like turns around and then they find themselves in a whole new place. It's kind of like that. where you have to have very skilled people and like pirates lead you through, which this is not a known thing. This doesn't just happen all the time. You know what I mean? The known world is actively trying to conquer the dark shores. Something to note is that there's dark shores, there's dark skies. Those are the first 2 books in the series. They take place simultaneously. They're just following different characters. So you can actually read either one, first or second, it doesn't really matter. I'm sure there's a way that you could do a tandem read. I don't think anything official has come out, but that could be fun. I found myself really caring for a lot of these characters, and just really, it's interesting because you don't really know who the bad guy is. And like, you find yourself rooting for everyone, even though they're all on opposite sides of this conflict. And so I'm very intrigued to see how this one ends. I rated this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was a really good time. I really cared about all the characters, and I just have to know that they're okay. So I can't wait for the next one to come out. Defy the Night Trilogy is what I have down for my next one. This is following kind of a weird, it was fun to read after COVID, just after the fact, because you have this kingdom and they're overtaken by this sickness, and there is a cure, but it is very controlled by the rich, you know? So you have a bit of a classic Robin Hood situation where you have some people that will steal from the rich to give it to the poor. We are following our main character Tessa, and then she has a friend Wes. Together they go out, they have this stolen medicine that they go and give to the people in their neighborhood and in the villages to try to keep them from dying and keep them from catching this fever. One day, Wes is caught. This breaks Tessa's heart, kind of irrationally, is like, I'm just gonna go to the castle, and she doesn't really have a plan, but she like walks into the castle, just finds a weak, like, she walks in through the servants' quarters. She finds herself face to face with the prince. Through a series of unfortunate events, fortunate events, however you want to look at it, she finds herself as the royal medical advisor and is working in the castle and is trying her best to help all the people, but, you know, under the guise of being this royal advisor. And there, it just gets even crazier from there. I feel like there is a lot of really good things to explore in this series. I feel like it's really well written, and this was just a good time. This one I rated 3.5 out of 5 stars. This next series is the Royal Decoy series. I believe there's 4 books out so far. There's a 5th one on the way that will be released later this year. This is written by Heather Frost, who I love. She's one of my favorite authors on Kindle Unlimited, honestly. And this is a fantasy romance series. It's got a lot of political intrigue. It's got a lot of complex characters. Claire is a servant in the castle, and this kingdom is on the verge of actually signing off like a peace treaty with another kingdom. And so there's some people that don't want that to happen. And because of that, there have been a lot of assassination attempts on the princess's life, the one who's gonna get married. They found this servant girl in a crazy happenstance, and they realized that she looks just like the princess. So they gave her an option. They're like, we'll take care of your family. You have to be the royal decoy. And so in all these major public events, this servant girl, Claire, is acting as Princess Serena. And she's got to learn how to defend herself. She's got to learn all these things. So we kind of follow along, and they end up traveling to this kingdom that they're going to be doing this treaty with. They're going to be getting married and all that sort of stuff. So we follow along on that adventure. This whole story takes, like, this author does such a good job. She goes very into detail, and every character has a story. And I love that. Honestly, sometimes it's done poorly. Sometimes you feel like it's a little bit sporadic, but I feel like she does a really good job of staying on theme, staying on pace, but still exploring the different sides of all these different characters, which I honestly love. Hands down, my favorite character is Grayson. I love Grayson. I think he's such an interesting character. The more that you learn, I'm obsessed with his storyline, and his is the one I believe that we're gonna get a lot of in this next book that comes out. So I'm so pumped to read that one. This one I rated 3.85 stars. It's got lots of forbidden love. It's got amazing character development. It's got incredible political intrigue. It's got deception. It's got lies. It's got like heist type vibes going on. It's just a lot of fun. So that is The Royal Decoy. All right, this is the first book on this list that is not fantasy romance. This is The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose. This one I read earlier this year, and it's on I loved it. It's so fun. This was one of my first books in that like mystery thriller genre, and it was a good introduction to the world. So we are following a couple, Sarah and Adam Morgan. Sarah is an incredibly successful lawyer. Adam, what we know about him starting off is that he's having an affair and has been for a while. And the only reason that Sarah finds out about this is because Adam becomes the prime suspect in his mistress's murder. She was murdered one morning, and he's the prime suspect. It was done at their lake house. In order to save her husband and get him out of this, she becomes his attorney, and she is the one that kind of represents him in this case. And so it's following just this complex story of she's trying to help him get out. She is also not sure if he did it or not. So there's a whole other side of things that we're exploring. We're watching Adam kind of process all of this, and it is just absolutely like a wild ride. And I know some people don't like the twists at the end. Some people are not into that. I drink it up. Like, they're my favorite thing. So at the very end, there's of course a classic twist, and I loved it. It was just so fun. Was it like the best book in the world? No. Are there plot holes? For sure. And like, we could talk about that. I could do a more in-depth dive if we really wanted, but it was a good time. I had a good time. It kept me on the edge of my seat. It kept me awake when I was driving to work at 5 in the morning. So we'll say that it was a great book. When I first initially rated this book, I rated it at a 4.25, but looking back, honestly, I would rate it at like a 3.85. There were a lot of flaws with it, but it was still a really fun one. North Queen Trilogy. This one, we follow Nora, who is literally starts out in the book. She wakes up in the middle of the forest, in the middle of nowhere, with no recollection of who she was before that moment. So we are kind of joining Nora on this journey with, like, she's following along with us. She's just as clueless as we are, and we learn information together, which I think is such a fun dynamic. But we find out that Nora is the princess of a kingdom, and she is engaged and betrothed to this other king in order to create a little bit of a marriage alliance, right? Yeah, I feel like that's fairly common. So on the way to meet with the king and kind of negotiate the terms of this marriage alliance, Nora is kidnapped by the enemy kingdom, or the North Kingdom as we call it. And within the first 100 pages of the book, she has found herself in an unlikely alliance with the North Kingdom. Much to everybody's chagrin, nobody likes them. Within this, we see an interesting dynamic change. We see a lot of growth from our main character, Nora. We see a lot of perspective shifts, and she's starting to question everything that she's ever believed in. This series is one of the few series that I truly enjoy. All of the political intrigue and the war talk and the he said, she said. I feel like this story does it really well. And I think that the reason they do that is because they very much involve the characters and their development in all of that. It's not just the war, and it's not just the character. The other thing that I really like about this story is there's a lot of gray area. It's not all black and white. You don't have the good guys, you don't have the bad guys. The bad guys have complicated motives, so do the good guys. And it's just a lot of perspectives that you don't see written down in a book very often, and I really appreciate that. I think we need more of that. I also think this book has a very atypical ending that I genuinely didn't expect. I had to set the book down for a day when one of these plot twists happened, just because I was so taken aback and I couldn't believe it was true. I felt like I was going through the 5 stages of grief a little bit, which is so interesting. And I wish that we had more of that. Maybe I just need to find more books that are like that. I feel like the thing that really sets this series apart is its rawness and its realness, and just the blunt acceptance of all different walks of life. This next one is The Unhoneymooners. This is my very first contemporary romance that I ever read, and it was such a fun start to my whole contemporary romance journey. This is following 2 characters. You have Ethan and Olive. Their siblings are getting married. So Ethan's brother, Olive's sister, are getting married, and at the wedding, everyone, and I mean everyone, comes down with this nasty, nasty food poisoning bug, right? Even the bride and groom. So they end up giving up their honeymoon to Ethan and Olive to go enjoy, because they're the only 2 that didn't get sick. Now, Ethan and Olive hate each other. So that's already fun dynamic number 1. They are on this trip, but they don't like each other. Fun dynamic number 2 is the bride won this trip as part of a giveaway. And one of the stipulations is that if they find out that they're faking, if they're not actually married, if this isn't a real honeymoon, not only do they have to pay for the whole trip, but they will get sent home. Everything will be flushed down the toilet, right? So now they have to not only go on this trip together, but they have to act like they're in love and they have to act like they're newlyweds. There's a lot of other things that kind of come into play as the book goes along. You run into people that they know from home. It's a lot of fun. I feel like Christina Lauren does a really good job with their banter. I know it's two different authors, but they do a really good job with their banter. They do a really good job with their characters. I've read a few of their books now, and it's just such a good time every single time. Honestly, this book leads to such unexpected chemistry between the main characters, and I love the different inside jokes that they have. It just makes me feel all giddy again. I'm happily married and it's been a lot of fun, and I love to kind of experience that new dating vibe again, you know what I mean? Without actually having to go through the horrors that are dating, because I never want to go through that ever again. But it's fun to read through people getting together for the first time like this. Genuinely enjoyed reading the story, and although it's not perfect, I think it is a phenomenal book. This one I rated 4 stars. These next 2 series that I'm going to be talking about are part of a world that has a few different series within them. It's written by Robin Molly and Ellie Madison. This first one I'm going to talk about is the Lochlann Treaty series, and this is the first one that happens chronologically within the Lochlann realm. So we are following Charlotte and Logan in this story, and we get to see, basically you have these enemy kingdoms you have 3 kingdoms, and there's a lot of tension between them. 2 of them are trying to create a treaty to unite and become one big Lochlann kingdom. So you have the princess of this kingdom and the prince of this kingdom that have been betrothed for the past 20 years. Since they were born, this was decided that they would marry and unite the kingdoms. Obviously, kingdom number 3, Sokera, is not a fan, and right at the very beginning of the book, literally in chapter 1, they're about to get married, and then we find out that the prince has been kidnapped. We see Charlotte, and she is doing everything that she can to find her prince. It leads to such an interesting dynamic. The banter is top tier. These authors do such a good job with their banter. It is technically clean romance, but there's lots of innuendos. It feels a little bit more adult, even though it doesn't dive into more of the spicy scenes, which honestly, I can appreciate that. Sometimes you're just not in the mood to read smut. Sometimes you are, sometimes you're not. This book does a really good job of giving you the connection of the characters without a lot of the smut. I love this world. I love the world building. I love the characters that they have created. The other thing that I really like about this is this series just continues to grow on itself. So this first series is following Charlotte and Logan. The second series follows Rowan, which is Charlotte's daughter. And then the third series follows Davin, who is a cousin within this world. You'll see there's a lot of family within this story. There's a lot of familial elements, which becomes very important, and I just love that tie. I love that you get to see these family dynamics grow. You get to see them explore those a lot. It is very important to the series, and I just think it's so special. Here's the thing with these authors. Every single book that I have read by them grabs me by the throat. I'm not sure if it's the banter, I'm not sure if it's the characters or just the way that they write the chapters, but I cannot put it down. The first time I read this series, I read all 4 books in the series in 3 days. I was obsessed. And these are 3 busy days where I'm taking care of my kid, I'm home from work, or I'm literally working. I am so busy, and I just have to find the time to read because it's such a compelling story. So I feel like that says something in and of itself. It's a good time. It will get you hooked. It will keep you up at night thinking about the characters. That's what I love about it. So that is the Lochlann Treaty. This one I rated 4 stars. Next series that I want to talk about is also in the Lochlann realm. It's the Lochlann Deception series, which is series 3 of 3. It takes place last chronologically. This is the one that follows Davin and Galena. They met up in the timeline of the second series. You kind of hear about them. They're side characters. But after all of this gets resolved with Rowan and her story, there's a little bit more going on. So Galena finds herself in a very, very compromising and a very difficult situation where she's surrounded by people who do not care about her, who do not rate her as a citizen / do not give her rights, and she has to make the difficult decision to leave these people behind and kind of make a new life for herself. So she takes a gamble and she literally sneaks into Davin's carriage, like on his way home, and hopes that he'll help her find a new life. So we kind of get into this very interesting political dynamic that these two are trying to navigate. I feel like there's a lot of different characters, and Davin and Galena are the ones where they've grown up in the political climate their whole lives, so they're playing the political games like it's freaking chess, you know? They're doing all these crazy things and they know exactly how it's going to affect everyone else, and it's just like played to perfection, and it's so satisfying to watch, especially as someone who's super clumsy and like could definitely never do that. It's really fun to enjoy and just like get into. So that is Davin and Galena's story. Super fun. I do like this one, touches a little bit more on some adult themes like domestic violence and abuse, and I feel like it handles it very artfully, so just keep that in mind if you're reading this story. There are a little bit of some trigger warnings to be aware of. This one I also rated 4 stars. Again, it's not the perfect series, but it grabbed me by the throat. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I loved the characters. It's just a really good read. Lots of fun. The Daughter of No Worlds trilogy is such a phenomenal book. It's a romantic fantasy series filled with a crazy magic system. It's got lots of emotional intensity. It's just extremely intense emotionally. We are following Tisana, who is a slave, and she manages to escape that life, and in this journey away from the place that she's been kept, she finds herself in a little bit of a magical stronghold. They take care of her, they kind of heal her up. They place her under the care of Max, who used to be a general in this army, and they task him with teaching her how to use her magic. It's kind of this reluctant, he doesn't want to be there. Tisana wants to be there, but kind of doesn't love how he's acting, and so they just kind of form this reluctant friendship, watching them grow into this deep allyship, friendship, mentorship. Just seeing that develop is so special, and they have such a beautiful and unique relationship overall, and I love that. One thing that I think Carissa Broadbent does such a good job with is the emotional intelligence that her characters have, and we get to like experience that emotional growth on such a raw and real level that I don't think I get to explore as often in some of these other books. Honestly, the magic system in this world is so unreal. I remember, I think it's in the second book that some deeper things are introduced, and at first you're kind of like, what is going on? Once it all comes together, I just remember my mind being absolutely blown. I think I sensed it coming for a while, but once the pieces all like really came together, it was just absolutely insane. I feel like the world building in this series is so intricate. I feel like the writing and the emotional growth is so beautiful. You can tell that thought was put into every single word on the page. You get to see the characters rise above some truly horrific things, and like this book made me ugly cry, this book made me happy cry. This series beautifully explores both sides of a conflict, so you find yourself not necessarily rooting for both sides, but truly understanding both sides. And that is so hard to do, to create a world and to create a conflict where you see both sides. I think a lot of authors struggle with this, but she does such a phenomenal job, and you understand the heartbreak and you understand why they're doing the things that they do, even if you don't necessarily agree with them. These books really stuck with me for a long time. Like I think about them regularly. I think about these characters. I don't know. I think that that's what makes a book really good, is that it kind of exposes you to a new way of viewing the world, and it exposes you to a new way of thinking. And I think that that's really beautiful, and I think that's really important. I rated this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. This next trilogy is the Traitors trilogy, and I have to preface this. This was one of the first books that I picked up reading again. I want to say this might have even been like the second or third book on Kindle Unlimited that I picked up like ever. It was like a long time ago that I read this. That being said, a lot of the tropes that are present in this book, it was my first exposure to them, like first or second exposure. So the novelty was still there. So I think I have this book personally rated in my head higher than it would be if I had read it maybe a year later. But this is my rating system, so enjoy it. This is where I put it, and I like it. So here we are. This series follows Sage Fowler. She is a very sharp-witted young woman. She kind of rebels against the idea of marriage, and in the society that she's living in, that's kind of all that women are good for, is getting married, having kids, that sort of a thing. And she hates that idea, so she ends up, like, she has to go meet with the matchmaker. But instead of finding a match, she finds herself as the apprentice to the matchmaker and is helping her. There's a very special kind of gathering where it almost reminds me of like Bridgerton, where all the women and like all the people meet and they mingle, and by the end they all have spouses and they all have people and they're betrothed and that sort of a thing. So Sage is traveling with the matchmaker and all these young women to this special event, and they have a contingent of the army that is following with them to protect these people as they go. The captain of this contingent of men is Captain Alexander Quinn, and he is given very special instructions. They are under the impression that there might be some sort of enemy attack that occurs at this event, and so not only is he there to protect these women, he's also there to sniff out extra trouble and lead a little bit of a spy mission. When he meets Sage, she is under the guise of being one of the other young women that's going to get married. Like, that's how they've snuck her in. He realizes that she is extremely smart. He realizes that she has a lot to offer. And so they start working together. She starts piecing pieces together for him. She helps him sneak around. She helps gather information and is actually making a lot of significant headway in the captain's mission, so to speak. So they start working together quite frequently. This trilogy explores lots of themes of trust and identity. There's plenty of action, there's slow burn romance, there's lots of plot twists that really catch you off guard. Honestly, any story that includes some sort of a heist or deception, that will bump it up 5 notches in my brain, because I love those stories. And this series has that in abundance. There is so much of that going on in every single book. It's just so fun to read and just fun to see the adventures that these people go on. I love the character growth in this story. This one is kind of fun because you see these people come together and you see the couple get together, but there's still a lot of growth that needs to happen after they've gotten together. I feel like a lot of times you see individuals grow and then they get together and then they're happy. This one is one where the couple, they grow, they get together, and there's still a lot of growth left to do, both individually and as a couple. And so we get to explore some different themes kind of in that nature. This series I rated 4.5 stars. Okay, this next book is a lesser known gem on Kindle Unlimited, and I wish with all of my heart that more people would read this book. It's my favorite. I love it so much. But this is Esperance by Heather Frost again. She wrote the Royal Decoy series that I talked about, and this is so good. Holy cow. Full disclosure, I went super red there with my hair for a hot minute, and it was this book that made me want to dye my hair, because the main character has this long, super curly, super red hair, and I just loved the main character so much. I felt like I connected with her so much, and I was like, you know what, this is my sign. I have to go red. So that's what got me into the red hair initially. We are following Amren and Carver. They are part of an empire which comprises of 12 different kingdoms. This is a super new empire though, super tenuous, not very peaceful. They're still trying to find that peace. So the emperor has put together something called Esperance, which is where they get one person from each kingdom, so 6 boys, 6 girls, and they pair them together in political marriages. And then for the next year, these 6 pairs are going to be in the same, within the building, and they are going to meet and discuss political issues, discuss political needs, and create alliances, just create friendships between the kingdoms. So when they go their separate ways, there's a lot more camaraderie within them. Amren and Carver are paired together, and on day 1, on chapter 1 in this book, they get married, and they know nothing about each other. They've literally never even seen each other before. Amren is sent as a rebel to try to dismantle this whole thing, right? Carver is a literal general in the Empire's army. So he knows that there are going to be rebels. He volunteered himself to go to root out, find, and get rid of the rebels for this whole thing. So it's kind of fun. They have total opposite missions, and they're married, and they have to kind of navigate that dynamic. Heather Frost does a really good job of exploring other people's points of view. She does a really good job of exploring other characters. So while these are the main characters, you get to see a lot more of the backstory of a lot of other people. I feel like this book has a lot of potential for such a good series. We're still waiting for the second book. It comes out literally in the next few months, and I cannot wait. I have been waiting for so long, and this is one, I know I'm going to be waiting on day 1. I'm going to buy the book, I'm going to read the book, and I will immediately tell you what I think, because it's such a good series, and I'm so pumped. This one I rated 4.75 stars, and I think it deserves every single one of those. Dance of Thieves and Vow of Thieves. I think this one is a little bit more popular. This is the follow-up duology to the Kiss Kiss of Deception trilogy that takes place. I would say that's like the only downside to this one is I do think that you need to read the original trilogy before you get into this duology, but I think this duology is so much better. So if you've read The Kiss of Deception, if you didn't know that this existed, absolutely read this one because it is so good. I like the characters, phenomenal. The vibes, immaculate. So we're following Kazi and Jace. Kazi is kind of like a spy, not so much assassin, just like a special agent of the Queen of Venda. Jace Ballinger is the newfound leader of his clan, his family, this town, and he's been that way for about a day. Kazi and Jace find themselves tied together on an unexpected adventure, let's just say, at the very beginning of the book. But then when the dynamic kind of shifts, they're back with everyone else, we start to see that they have two totally opposing plans in play, but they have to play at being friends. So it's not so much enemies to lovers, it's enemies to friends, to allies, to lovers, back to reluctant partners, back to friends, back to lovers. So it's somewhere in there, they're super enemies for a minute. So like it's a lot of fun just to watch the dynamic between them. The world building is not quite as big because they do a lot of that in the original trilogy, but it is a lot of fun. I feel like it's important to note that with this series, I have mentally aged up the characters at like 5 years minimum for each of them. So Kazi, I think in this is 17, Jace is 19. In my head, we're talking like 23 and 25. So I guess that's 6 years, which feels a lot more age appropriate for the things that they're doing, the lives that they're living. Like early to mid 20s feels very accurate in my mind. This one I also rated 4.75 stars. This next series that I want to talk about, it's a duology. It's the Peaches and Honey and Pits and Poison. And this series has such a nostalgic feel to it. It's such an interesting way of writing, and it's just an interesting way to see the character growth. So we are following our main character who starts her life in the 1100s, I want to say. And she helps out a stranger. And when she is in need, the same stranger comes and helps her out and then offers her a peach. Turns out that is literally the fruit of immortality. And now this character is not going to age. She's not going to die. She is just going to live on forever. And so you kind of get to see her gain love and lose love. You see her outlive a lot of people that really matter to her. And it's just kind of a very interesting dynamic where you see her navigate a lot of significant world events from a very different perspective. She has someone that she's kind of navigating this life with, the person that gave her the fruit. You have someone that understands her in a way that literally no one else does. It feels nostalgic. You feel the love of 1,000 years. It feels very much like soulmates almost, if that makes sense. And it's just so beautifully written. It's so fun to read. I really loved the ending to this. I think it's a beautiful way to end the story. This is one I genuinely think everyone would be better off by reading it. This was such a good story. And I rated this one 4.85 stars. We're down to the top 2. This is the Lochlann Feuds series. This is written by Robin Molly and Ellie Madison. This is the third of the 3 Lochlann series that I'm going to be talking about today. This takes place about 20 years after the first one and about 6 months before the last one. Rowan is just like my female main character. I love her. I see her. I feel her in my soul. And I love her because she's so raw and real and she makes a lot of mistakes. The character development that we see through this series, through these 4 books, is absolutely unreal. So basically, Rowan starts off the story. She is sneaking into an enemy kingdom to steal some vodka, or not to steal, she's going to illegally purchase some vodka. She ends up getting caught, and she doesn't fully understand like how big of a deal this is. She isn't really taking it very seriously, but before you know it, her life is on the line. She doesn't know if she'll ever get back to see her family and friends. She finds herself playing political games that she is quite frankly terrible at. I was kind of talking about how Davin and Galena are like masterminds when it comes to this. She's very much not. She's very much young and immature and doesn't really know what's going on. And so it's really fun to see that dynamic, how she bumbles her way through and manages to steal people's hearts anyways. The main male character in this story is like one of my favorite male main characters ever. Like he is one of my top 3 book boyfriends, and you can argue at the wall if you want. Like that's not up for debate in my mind. He's phenomenal. and I just love their dynamic specifically. The witty banter and the action is so well paced. I read this series the first time, I think in 3 days again. And like, this is a common thing with these authors. I read them and I don't stop until it's over because I just can't stop reading. These authors manage to make every moment count. Like, you are sucked in and it just like keeps you going all throughout. That doesn't necessarily mean it's action packed all the way throughout, but you are just engrossed by the characters, you're engrossed by the story. Even the ebbs and the flows are interesting. I've reread this series 3 to 4 times now, and I'll probably read it again. This is one I recommend to my family, I recommend to my friends. I have shamelessly rated this book 5 stars, and it's just so good. We've made it my favorite series, and I could literally spend like 20 to 30 minutes talking about this series, which I actually already did. I already made a video about it. But this is the Villains and Virtues trilogy by A.K. Caggiano. Holy cow. When I say slow burn romance is what I want, when I say I want yearning, I will refer you to this series because this is by far my favorite trilogy on Kindle Unlimited, and I hope that it never goes away. This is one I have bought the first 2 books. I gave them to my brother and sister-in-law. I'm probably gonna buy them for myself at some point just so I can have them on my bookshelf. We're following Damien and Amma. They live 2 totally different lives and they find themselves stuck together on a quest. Amma has run away from home to find a specific tool to help clear her town of some unexpected kind of invaders, let's say. This tool is with Damien, and she doesn't know that yet. She's just gone to this place. Damien is the one that has it. Damien, he has a dad who is a demon. This demon is currently locked away in the king's castle. Damien has spent a good chunk of his life coming up with a plan to get his dad out of prison, and he's finally created a talisman that will help him to control the king to get his dad out of prison. But the talisman inadvertently gets stuck in Amma. Like, in their one conversation that they have, it gets stuck inside Amma, so now he has to either kill her or take her along with him. So he decides that she's more worthwhile alive rather than dead. He takes her along. She's trying to get this special tool. He's trying to get his dad out of jail, let's say, and it just creates this really fun dynamic. So this is written very much like a D&D campaign. I wouldn't be surprised if the author personally did like a D&D campaign and was like, wow, that was so fun, I should write a book just like that. And then that's what she did, and that's how this happened. You can tell there are moments when the main characters roll a 1 and they just have to suffer through, or you can tell that it's like they do something super cool and you're like, how did that happen? Such a good vibe, such a fun story. I also like it explores a lot of themes of like what is good, what is bad. It explores a lot of different, more mature themes, but in a very good way. I think that Amma and Damien have such a fun dynamic together, and they complement each other so well. When we talk about enemies to lovers, they truly are kind of enemies to begin with. They're reluctant allies at the very worst. But you see, it's not just that all of a sudden there's this lust there and then they can't get enough of each other. It's like it grows to allies. There's like legitimate trust between the two before you ever experience the lust and the love and like the anything like that. I feel like this story, when I talk about enemies to lovers, this is what I'm talking about. This is the vibe I'm going for. This is the one I'm also recommending to families, friends, neighbors, anyone that will hear me say it. This is the one that I think you should read. It's a hands down 5-star read, probably 6 stars if I had the option. No notes. I would read it again and again and again, and I have. Chapter titles, hilarious. I didn't notice them the first time I read it. I read it the second time, and I was laughing out loud. It was such a good time. That concludes all the books on my list for today. These are the 46 books that I would recommend from Kindle Unlimited for you to check out if you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription. And honestly, even if you don't, I know people like to get their books in lots of different ways, lots of different places. These books are available on many different channels, so even if you don't have a Kindle Unlimited subscription, check them out. There are some truly phenomenal reads on this list. I've personally gotten some of these books from Libby. I've gotten them from my own public library. There are author websites that contain their books that you can purchase from, all sorts of different ways. I hope you've enjoyed the video today. Please go take care of yourself, and I will see you guys next time. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you've made it this far, I would love to see you again. So go ahead and subscribe, like this video, comment, do all the things so that way YouTube knows that my videos are worth caring about. And go ahead and watch this video right here. It's a vlog of my experience experience of a week in my life reading as a busy mom and as a full-time nurse. So go ahead, check it out. Okay, thank you, bye.